Hey, everybody. It's great to see you today. I'm Alex Vidor, part of the leadership team here at Franzy. And very excited to have a guest on today, Stephen Tong, newly minted entrepreneur in the Waterloo Turf arena. So, Stephen, let's go ahead and get started. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm super pumped. Franzy's been awesome. But my name's Stefan. I'm with Waterloo Turf.
And so before you got into Waterloo Turf, I remember when I first met you, your background in law enforcement, and I think a lot of those skill sets have bled into what you've done with Waterloo and in management and taking ownership of the business. So can you elaborate a bit on your background before you came into franchising?
Yeah, so before I was an owner with Waterloo Turf, I was in law enforcement for a little over a decade, so a little over 10 years. Kind of did a little bit of everything in law enforcement. Early on, I just started to try to do as much as I could. I was a detective and did SWAT. Was a canine handler for about 7 years, field training officer. So I did almost everything there is to do in law enforcement. But I've really seen, like we talked about before, a lot of the same project management skills and talking to people and being social. It's transferred right over to owning a business and being a business owner. So it's been great.
That's awesome. And so out of curiosity, so how did you, because I think people love to hear kind of the change in careers, which a lot of people do. So what initially brought you into law enforcement? What attracted you to that?
Honestly, it's kind of a funny story. I was in college and didn't know what my major was. I went from business to communications to real estate. And one day I was hungover, sitting on the couch, and we were watching Cops, and I was like, man, that looks cool. So, no, but I wish there was some super cool story. I've always kind of felt the need to give back to the community, and so initially, right out of high school, I had told my parents like, hey, I want to go into the military, and they were like, hey, no. So, um, so that didn't work out. So I went to college, got my degree, and then afterwards, as I was in school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I started taking some criminal justice classes, and one thing led to another. And I fell in love with law enforcement. So,
That's great. And so I know, we talk to a lot of people at Franzy that are, at this juncture in their career, and it's been a great experience, but it could be looking for change, could be different home dynamics, could be whatever. What kind of prompted you to start looking outside of law enforcement and endeavor on the search for a new career path?
I think the biggest thing for me was I wanted my time back. So for me, time is super valuable. And being a business owner allows me to kind of control that. So as a cop, I was working 12-hour shifts, and like every cop does, I got caught in the overtime cycle where the more you work, the more overtime you work, the more money you make, and I just knew that that wasn't necessarily the cycle that I wanted to be in. I want time for my kid and for my family and friends, and so that was more valuable to me. But on the kind of on the same on the flip side, I guess I still wanted to make the same amount of money, and so being financially independent and being able to make as much as there's no ceiling, I guess, is the proper way of saying it, on how much I can make was important to me.
Perfect. And when you started to kind of pick your head up and look at, other avenues, did you know you wanted to do business ownership and lead your own organization, or were you open to, going to work for another company, or, how did you get to the idea of, I want to be my own boss?
Yeah, I did actually look at several other related career paths in the civilian world, but still had a toe in law enforcement. But ultimately, I think I started exploring business ownership because I've always really been entrepreneurial. I've always had that bug in me to have my own business. So this was kind of I knew I was transitioning out of law enforcement. I just didn't know what that looked like. And so I I figured this would be the perfect time to look into business ownership.
Fantastic. And, that's a big part of what we want to do at Franzy is for those that have, those motivations, those, desires to, change their career, how can we make that exploration, discovery, and support, accessible to others. And so that's really great to hear your story. So talk to us a little bit about the transition to Waterloo. So, you'd been looking for a little while, keeping tabs online, and what kind of drew you initially to the Waterloo franchise itself?
Well, me and you, went through a lot of other businesses and actually dug pretty deep into a few of those. And I know you had mentioned that I think we both saw a YouTube video with Brian Beers and Lance Ingram, the owner of Waterloo Turf, online, and it was just one of those things where we kind of simultaneous were like, "Wow, what about Waterloo Turf?" And so you introduced me to Tim and Lance, the owners, and it was kind of all downhill from there.
And one of the big questions we get, right, is we have a lot of people that when they end up with the brand that they go with, it may be, as you said, the second, third, fourth, fifth, or even more, fifth brand that they've met with. So when you went through that process, is it fair to say that for the brands you met with, even if you didn't move forward, it was still a valuable learning experience in terms of exposure to the process, refining, what you were really looking for? So can you talk a little bit about how speaking to multiple brands eventually led you to know this is the right fit for me?
Yeah, and I will say too, Alex, that I'll give a shout out to Franzy. I had no idea what I was really looking for and what it entailed trying to find a business. There's a million businesses out there online. And so when I first started looking, it was just super overwhelming. And you and Franzy did a great job of breaking it down and making it a little bit more simple and focusing on the brands uh, that I really fit me best. But yeah, I mean, I think looking at different businesses helped me realize what I want and what I don't want and what's best for me and fit my business model or really just fit how I wanted to run the business best. I knew that I I wanted to I wanted to be a big part of the business. I didn't want to be absentee. I didn't necessarily want to hire a GM right off the bat. I really wanted to be hands-on, but not necessarily for me. I didn't want to be washing windows or installing turf. I wanted time to be able to run the business and grow it. I didn't want to be stuck in that cycle of, hey, I'm going out washing windows or installing turf myself. I really want to be able to grow this business, run crews, and help this thing grow.
That makes a lot of sense. And you touched on a few things there that, everybody that we speak to, right, they have, maybe there's some overlap in motivations, freedom, financial, backing in their life, support family, all of that. But each person is, unique in the combination of all of those things. And so, we like to say at Franzy that we're not here to choose the franchise for you, rather to provide a structure through which you can make your own decision. And if that is, going through 100 brands, collecting that feedback, recalibrating, then that's the right process for that individual. So there's no perfect process for everybody. It's really, following the individual, their background, their context, all of that. So it's really wonderful to hear that. So switching gears a little bit. So I want to talk, so you introduced to Tim, you start learning about the Waterloo Turf business model. What was kind of the collection of those meetings? So you're starting to meet with Waterloo. What did that process look like as you really, came off of Franzy, got in the trenches with the business? What were those steps like? What were those meetings like? What did you cover?
Initially, the first couple of meetings with Tim was very much a feel each other out. You know, I could tell he's feeling me out. I'm feeling him out. I'm feeling the business out. What was nice about Waterloo was all of they were in a big push to grow Waterloo Turf, and so Lance had been making YouTube videos, and obviously Brian Beers is huge on YouTube. Um, so a lot of that information about Waterloo and their business model and their plans were able to be researched online. Um, so initially, when I was talking to Tim, it was really just finding out the finer details about really how. My biggest question was how much support am I going to get from Waterloo Turf, and what made me nervous was it is we are an emerging brand, we are growing, and so I think a lot of franchisees when they're out there searching for a franchisor is they're looking at the P&Ls. They're looking at the statement. How much money is this company making? How much money can I make? Right. So there wasn't a lot of information out there, but yeah, we had some great talks, and I fell in love with really the culture of the company.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you're evaluating a business, right? There's a number of boxes to check, right? So there's the opportunity, the market size. There's what is the product or the service? What is the management structure? And you mentioned that, right? The ability to grow within your role and be able to work on the business, not just in the business, expand it, really get the reward for the effort that you put in it. And you made a good point there where, every really established brand today with 1,000 locations or more at some point was emerging, right? And so how do you evaluate those that are emerging but are really onto something? And so I know Tim's background, Lance's dedication and years in the industry itself, all of those coming together and asking those right questions around what is the support, what is collaboration and teamwork look like as we work together, right? Because the franchisor and the individual franchisees need to be mutually aligned in success and work together to achieve it. So no, that's wonderful. So how did you know when you were going through the process with Tim and Lance and Waterloo, when did you get the light bulb go off to say, okay, this is the right one for me?
I think it was towards the end. It was actually before confirmation day, before I actually flew to Austin from California and met with the entire corporate team. It was prior to that. I had a chance to, or Tim explained the entire process to me, the business model, the core values. And I think for me, I actually had turf in my backyard. I installed it like 7 years ago when I first bought my house, and I loved it. And so I really see the value in it. And so when you are passionate about a product, it's easier to push and sell, and really it sells itself. So I love the product itself. I love the business model, and I love the values of the company, and also the everything. The big focus for Waterloo, and Lance has preached this in a lot of his videos, is franchisee profitability. And so that was the one thing that kind of pushed me over the edge to say, okay, it's very rare, I think, you hear of a franchisor or an owner saying, not that they don't want all franchisees to be profitable, but for the main focus to be franchisee profitable instead of just, hey, let's make our whole entire company profitable, really spoke to me. And that's what really kind of pushed me over the edge to say, you know what? Yeah, Waterloo Turf is where it's at. So
that's great. Yeah. As you get to meet the team throughout the process, right, just in any industry, you're looking for the right fit of, alignment in approach, the vision, the values. But I do have to ask, Stephen, are you on the bandwagon with Tim and Lance carrying a piece of turf around everywhere you go now?
So yeah, so I am. I was actually I was on the fence about it because he in our weekly meetings and group text, uh, Tim is always bragging about how he's carrying a piece of turf around, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But I actually started doing it the very first day I started doing it. I walked into Starbucks, was doing some work, and I had a couple come up to me and said, "Hey, do you guys do putting greens?" Yeah, yeah, we do. So
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
yeah, big believer.
That's great. That's my of all the great attributes of Tim. That's one of my favorite. Just the dedication to the brand and the industry. It's been fun to follow you on social media and Tim and Lance and see how much that they do post, right, and they post a lot about not just the results of the homes, which, by the way, I checked my HOA the other day. They don't allow turf, and it is killing me. So I really wish I could. But in the social media posts, they do a lot of the training videos. So I'd love to kind of transition to talk a little bit more about. You signed on to be a part of the Waterloo Turf brand earlier this year. How many days in are you now? And what were those first 30, 60, 90 days like?
Yeah, so I'm about 90 days in. My first day was June 1st. So yeah, it's it's been an adventure. It's been I've found more success than I thought I was gonna find or I expected to find. Um, Early on, I expected us to just kind of slowly start developing the business, growing the business. It takes time for Google Ads to kick in. It takes time for the business to grow. Um, but I think where I'm at in my location, I'm kind of right in between Dallas and Austin, and we have Waterloo locations in both of those larger metroplexes. So um, low competition, I think too. But yeah, I mean, just these first 90 days, it's the ups and downs of business ownership. The thing that it was a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, in the beginning because the first 30 to 60 days, um, I'm learning one, turf, and two, how to run a business and start a business from nothing. So uh, it was a little overwhelming, to be honest, but I think Waterloo Turf did a great job in. They have a training manual for each side. So here's what you do week one. Here's what you do week two, week three, week four. Everything is laid out. There's a playbook, and here's all the turf knowledge that we need you to get through. And so it's I can't say enough about the support on that side. As being a franchisee, I think that was also a scary point, right? And a big point in when I'm looking at different and doing my due diligence and looking at these different businesses, like some that we had looked at together, um, was how much support am I going to get? Because I don't nothing about home services or I was a cop for 10 years. I don't know how to install turf. I don't know how to wash windows, like commercially or whatever et cetera, et cetera. So that was a big point for me was to make sure that I was going to get the support, and we definitely have at Waterloo.
That's fantastic. And I think, getting through those days and seeing the success and the speed at which you've come on, right, is a testament to you, your grit, mentality, the kind of open mindset of, hey, let's do this thing. And then, following the playbook, right? Because that is, at the end of the day, one of the main reasons that, someone goes with a franchise versus starting their own business is having that playbook, the allies, the support. So Stefan, for somebody who's kind of on the fence and is nervous about taking that plunge, and you having just gone through that, do you have any advice for the listeners on how to mentally approach that with tenacity and grit, and that the effort is worth the labor?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say you have to do your due diligence. Finding the right fit for you is the most important thing. don't be afraid to talk to 2, 3, 5, 10, as many different companies as it takes, until you find the right fit for what you're looking for, and what your tolerance is. So I would say the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to take the risk, but make sure that you do due diligence, because in the end it'll pay off.
And so in these, 30, 60, now 90 days almost, what would you say the biggest learning curve has been? Has it been on the business side or on the turf installation side? Has it been, interacting with Tim Lance and the franchisor? What has been the biggest learning curve that you've had so far?
Honestly, Alex, the toughest thing that I've faced so far is not what you can control, or what I've learned is it's not what you can control, it's what you can't control, and specifically managing people. So that's been the toughest thing for me, and is, you have these crews. Like Vic has the Sharkies and these managing stylists. You don't know if they're going to show up late. You don't know if they're going to come in uniform, or the work product isn't what you expect, or for the company. So managing crews has been I wouldn't say difficult, but that's the most challenging so far for me, is learning that. So
I have a phrase that I like to say. I've been a part of 4 startups, and I always say that wading through the muck is what earns you the glory, right? Like most people are not up for that fight, for that. Each of those, that learning curve, right, is an opportunity to sharpen. And I can imagine that in 90 days, tough learning curve, but also puts it to the grindstone. And I bet you've grown and learned a lot through that, right?
oh yeah, it seems like every project we do, there's something to learn and something to master. I think it's just like anything else in life, right? The more experience you have in doing it, the better you're going to be, and the more well-rounded you're going to be. Turf isn't overly complicated, right? But there are some nuances and techniques, not only in just turf installation, but sales techniques, and getting your accounting down, and just all the little things. Every project is progress. So
Great. So thinking of, the now that you're getting these reps in and installations are happening and you're managing the team, aside from when you are very kindly taking a break from your busy day to, join a Franzy podcast, what does a typical day in the life of Stephen Tong look like today? What's the day to day?
it's right now it's a grind, and I love it. I love every minute of it. My day looks like waking up at 5 a.m., checking my emails, making sure that anything I need to do in the office admin side is taken care of. And then I'm usually out of the door by 8 a.m. I'm going out, and if I have a project going on, I'm going to the job site and working on that. If I'm not, I'm going out and doing commercial drop-ins, or going out and talking to people, going to real estate meetings, just trying to really boots on the ground, get my name out there. So anything that I have to do that, I'll do. And then, like I said, it's just a grind. So it's late nights. Somebody wants to meet at 6 o'clock. We'll go meet them at 6 o'clock. But yeah, trying to balance the work life, family life. But yeah, I love it. I love the grind, especially when it's nice because early on I'm seeing success, so it's paying off.
Yeah, so fair to see the fruits of your labor are there. That's wonderful. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but now that we've started to talk about the day to day, how has your law enforcement background, what skill sets or behaviors, be it managing a team or long hours, what is really transferred over from your previous career that has allowed you to roll into this new one so successfully?
I think a lot of attributes of law enforcement translate really well to business ownership. Most cops are type A personality. We love to talk to people. We're not afraid to talk to strangers about anything. We use the saying, I'm talking somebody in handcuffs. In this case, we're just talking to them about turf. But yeah, like you said, project management is one of the big things. I did a lot of purchasing and talking to vendors in law enforcement, and I'm kind of doing the same thing here, and also just managing our time. We're sitting in a car for 12 hours. Just you're your own boss essentially for that little bit of time that you're in the car by yourself. Like, what do I go out and stop cars? Do I go do this? Do I go do that? So it's a lot of the same. I would say that being successful in business so far has really been about time management, and that's something that Tim and Lance both preach a lot. Is you have to be able to manage your time and make the most out of your time. I think Tim made an analogy the other day that your time is like a palm tree. So what's going to help grow your palm tree? You have a million things that a business owner has to do, but what of those things are going to help your business grow? Not that everything isn't important. It's just that you got to focus your time and your effort on things that are going to help the business grow and be successful. So I think a lot of that has transferred over from law enforcement to running a business.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I see those parallels there. So, you moved from California to Texas for this, and I believe you got a few territories in Waco. And so, what does kind of steady growth versus expansion look like? Are you focused on your initial area? Have you kind of expanded to outside of the original territory? Do you have your grand vision on even broader outside of that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. This isn't going to be it for me. And I knew that coming from the beginning. So initially, I have two territories, and they're pretty far apart. To be honest with you, my territories about an hour and a half apart, so a lot of driving. Right now, I'm focusing primarily on growing both at the same time if I can, which has actually worked. It's just time management. But ultimately, my goal and my vision is to have a general manager running these territories and then expand and hopefully either purchase uh, five more territories in a different location or out of state, and or purchase a different home services brand and expand that way. So really don't know what that looks like just yet, but the goal is definitely to expand.
Phenomenal. The Stephen Tong empire grows, not built
Yeah.
in a day, but through steady hard work. Man, it's really exciting to hear the passion and excitement, and it's rewarding. Again, this is why we started the company. So really a fairy tale story in our eyes from what we set out to do, and seeing the happiness and passion that you're exuding. So fantastic, Stefan. I've got a few more questions for you, if that would be all right, that kind of get a little more introspective, a little more on reflections and advice, right? So less about Waterloo and your background, if that would be okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So the first one is people misunderstanding franchising. So there are a lot of misconceptions, and I won't bias you by stating them, but what was something that you came into your franchise search thinking that was altered significantly, and now you think, hey, I was thinking about this wrong, but now getting exposure, I now see what it actually is.
Yeah, I think initially for me it was more on the financial side. I coming into it just being brand new to business or purchasing a business, it felt like a mountain. And I figured there was only really one way to franchise or to finance a franchise. And that could be, that couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of different ways to fund a franchise. Um, in my case, we used a HELOC. And so but we explore different options. So there's a lot of ways if folks out there are worried about the financing of the franchise. There's really a million ways to do it. You just have to find out what works for you.
Awesome. Well, Stephen, super grateful for your time today. It's great catching up with you. Want to thank again Stephen Tong, newly minted entrepreneur in the Waterloo Turf growing empire. Any final words, Stephen?
No, Waterloo Turf, well, we specialize in artificial turf installation. So if you have a need for artificial turf and want us to help you get your Saturdays back, we're here for you.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Stephen Tong, for your time today. Very grateful. Let's go install some turf.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.